Like I said before the break, it's so curious. Labor is not offering us much policy. We don't really know what it will do to make Australia richer and smarter and safer and less in debt. But there was one, well, I was going to say big. It wasn't big. We just discussed a tiny policy announcement yesterday from Labor. It was a new scheme to help poor Australians buy their first house. Now the prices are soaring, so that's why they need this help, apparently. And this is their big plan. It works like this. The government helps up to 10,000 lucky Australians each year, only 10,000, buy a home by paying up to 40% of their purchase price, and then getting back the money plus a share of the capital gains when it's sold, or the deposit. The Prime Minister today said, hang on.
There are questions about this. So what happens if you decide to renovate your home? I mean, what Labor have been very clear about is they have a share in your home, and so as your home value increases, they're making money off you. So as your home price goes up, your home value goes up, they are taking a cut. And so you have to pay the government back on their equity and with the capital appreciation.
And then there's the unfairness. We've got more than 160,000 Australians a year already buying their first home without the government paying a chunk of the cash. And here comes the government helping 10,000 buyers bid up the price.
So you'll be going along to an auction and there'll be someone who's bidding against you, and they'll be bidding with the government and you'll be bidding on your own. And so I don't think Labor have thought these things through. We've seen this. We've seen their health policies that weren't costed.
Joining me is Michael Kroger, former Victorian Liberal President, and Steve Conroy, former Labor Senator and Cabinet Minister. Steve Conroy, I've been negative, so please put the other side of it. Do you really think this scheme is going to do much good?
Well, look, I don't have amnesia, unfortunately, like the Prime Minister. And as I was driving in here for the show tonight, I was listening to the radio, and the Prime Minister had his own quotes read out to him supporting an identical Victorian scheme. It was just humiliating. So all this confected outrage from him that we've just watched, literally, I mean, this bloke will say anything on any given day, forgetting what he said just a few years ago. He supported an identical Victorian scheme. New South Wales have something similar. The WA, South Australian Liberals have something similar. It's like, just stop pretending that this is an issue. This will be a modest program to help a modest number of people. And let's not pretend that the government's plan isn't capped for the number of people who can benefit from the government's plan. So this is it's just embarrassing watching a bloke who can't remember what he said a short time ago.
Yeah, but Steve, I've never been in favour of it, and I'm doubting it. See, I've never been in favour of it, so you can't accuse me of hypocrisy here. But
yeah, you're not running for office.
Michael
The Prime Minister's running for office.
But true. No, but I'm just trying to find out the merit of this scheme. Michael Kroger, what do you make of it? I mean, the Prime Minister said those other schemes that Steve was just referring to, there was a very small take-up of them, so that he doubts that it will do much good.
Yes, and Scott Morrison made those comments over a decade ago after the GFC, when everyone was trying to think of ways to stimulate the economy, home ownership, etc., etc. So that was the context of that. No, this is a terrible policy. I mean, the government should not be buying people's homes for a start. I mean, there have got to be limits to the government intervention in the Australian economy, and buying people's homes is not one of those things that should be a core fundamental role of government. Health services, yes. Medical services, yes. Transport, yes. Police, infrastructure,
subsidising their deposits,
but not. Well, that's a deposit. That's a deposit.
So that's not an intervention that affects the price.
Different. Once you get on the title, as Scott said today,
you are a lawyer, not an economist, aren't you?
You put in some renovations, and then Labor now are saying they're getting a share of the upside from your renovations. There's got to be an adjustment at the time you sell the property. So the reason these schemes haven't succeeded is because people know when you look into the details they don't work. And by the way, good luck bidding at an auction saying I'd like to buy this property subject to me getting my 40% from the government. That'll all have to be pre-approved, like Bank loans are pre-approved. No auction will be subject to government financing or bank loans. So the whole thing doesn't work. Is it a big deal? Is it a big deal?
You have to apply for the government scheme as well.
It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
You've got to apply for the government scheme. I mean, don't pretend they're that different and that they don't have the same economic impact.
It'll disappear, Andrew. It's a nothing policy.
Well, I do think it's a bit weird, and even you, Steve, had to concede it's a very modest number of people who's going to help. And I found it very odd for this to be a centrepiece announcement of a campaign. You know, it's my fellow Australians, I'm going to help 10,000 of you. I mean, it sounds very weird. But two polls out today, despite
with interest rates about to go up.
Newspoll has the... yes, true. But here is a scheme to address housing prices being too high when you're looking at pumping even more money into the market to drive them even higher. I don't know how it works out for everyone else.
But the government doesn't have caps on its own programs around subsidising deposits. So there's an unfair balance in the government's one, if that's the argument you want to make. So the government
this is a
can't
more
have it
substantial
both
one for
ways.
the 10,000.
For a small, modest number of people. The government has a slightly large number, but it's a smaller contribution. So on balance, they probably have maybe the same effect. So Morrison can't criticise one without revealing what his own policy does. No, he can't. They have the same economic impact, Michael.
No,
You're a lawyer, not an economist.
They do not have the same.
They have absolutely
the same
economic impact.
One is funding a deposit shortfall that people have. The other is taking a 30 or 40% equity in someone's property. That is totally different dynamics. It's a totally different
And also with the deposit,
feel free
you
to
can just
consult an
say,
Economics
I'll
101
repay the
textbook.
deposit. When you own the equity, then you're arguing about capital gains as well and who did renos and all that kind of stuff.